Morning Ride right here on Delta Television, the People's Pride, and we have been looking around the streets, checking out the perspectives of our viewers out there as far as the forthcoming elections is concerned. Many of them had many strong statements. We just heard some of them right now, and I think that while some of them are valid, some of them should be looked at very deeply. For instance, one of our respondents said something very strong, that should we celebrate a government for fixing roads, for fixing the lights, for fixing schools? Basically, he's making a very strong point, which I think is valid, that the role of the government is to ensure that the social amenities are in order, whether it comes to schools, whether it comes to fixing the road and all those things. That is part and parcel of their job, of their responsibility. It's as simple as saying a broadcaster comes to work on a daily to do his job and should not get salutations for coming to do his job. But if they do the job exceptionally and they bring in some other picture, something extra, that what makes them excellent. But in this part of the world, we celebrate governments for doing their jobs. That's valid. But on the other hand, people would also say that for a long time in this country, we've not experienced governments who are intentional about the people, ensuring that roads are fixed, schools are in order, and there is energy in the country or in their state. In fact, that's why yesterday, Ogaga, one of our speakers who came for the Delta State Investment Summit, a very powerful businessman and a bank executive, he said something very strong, that if you don't have energy, and you're trying to go to talk about development, you're heading nowhere, matter of fact. And so that's one of the crux of the matter. But the government focuses on some of these social amenities that you're seeing and you take it for granted because that's what they ought to do. They are making the state investment friendly and good for business to thrive. That's the first thought.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and I love the balance you put in there. Truth is that we cannot downplay the role of active citizenship, holding the government to account, and that's what we must do so that they will not rest on their oars, feeling like, okay, I've achieved a lot. Because truth is, you might take over from a failure, and you scoring 40%.
Looks like you're
doing great. Do you understand? So, and when relatively speaking too, or generally speaking, you're also a failure in itself. But like you said, there's also a place of encouragement, so that even the government knows that the people are seeing these improvements, are seeing my workings, and they appreciate it. And any leader that took that position of leadership to serve the people will definitely be encouraged to do more. So kudos to the subnationals, leaders in subnationals, and also the federal level working on infrastructure. Even recently, the president spoke and he kind of subbed some governors and saying that when there's no congestion, we don't need flyovers.
No, we don't need flyovers. And I must say this, that in Delta State, for instance, I've seen some of the best link roads around some places, and it was one of the best ways to ease up traffic.
No, it's very.
I saw one around the Asaba, Okpanam, Ibuzo area. You will just understand why Okpanam and Ibuzo are in the same local government. And for a long time, people did not get it. Because the route to Ibuzo meant you had to pass through Asaba. That's Oshimole South to Oshimole North. Yes. And then there's Okpanam, that's also Oshimole North. That's supposed to be one with Ibuzo. But it took this government, a continuation of the previous government, to ensure that the linkage between Okpanam area and Ibuzo is fixed. The road is now there. So for the first time, after a long time in my life, I realized the reason Okpanam and Ibuzo are in the same local government. That's creating link roads. That's ensuring that it's easy for people to move from one place to the other. That's also ensuring urbanization, because shout out to the real estate agents, I should give them the peace sign. They don't take the roads for granted. The moment you just fix on this,
they don't.
You just see real estate agents, they're saying all these things all over again, and they're making the place urban. There are other thoughts about what they are doing in terms of they're taking away our farmlands. Where should they be farming? But are there people farming on those lands right now?
Good question.
That's a different question entirely. But at the same time, they would always come there, get those lands, and begin to develop it. And people can move from one place to the other. And that creates urbanization. So the government must continue doing things like that, after all. But when it comes to all those bridges, they are good. In fact, I find them sometimes futuristic. What I find important right now are those link roads. The one, for instance, the one I just gave an example of. If you also move around Asaba too, you check the Okpanam region, I think
there's an Okpanam Ugbolu
yes,
as well.
Working as well. If you go to the Akpu Junction, legislative quarters, and there's a road there, you can, from that route, from Okpanam area get to Anwai area, that's the Camp 74 infantry.
Yes, yes.
That's a beautiful thing to do.
Yes.
That's bigger than a bridge, I dare say, because it affects the common man. But there are many pedestrian bridges that nobody has used.
Yes.
In fact, if you count people that use those pedestrian bridges in a month, you find that there are 220, 30 people. And then you find madmen.
Yes, and it's not just Delta State, because I was in Edo State. I think about a month ago. I went to my alma mater and all of those, and I saw a couple of changes. There's the overhead bridge now, the pedestrian bridge, and a blockage as well. So I was asking somebody, I was like, why did they barricade? Because there's a partition between the roads, and then there is a division between that partition where pedestrians can walk through. And I was asking, and he said that, of course, I understood why they put the overhead bridge, although I had graduated then, but there was certain protests a certain time, an accident, and students lost their lives because it's University of Benin is just, the main gate is opposite an express.
Yes.
So they put the overhead bridge, but they still realized that students were not using this overhead bridge, that even the state government had to go further, out the school had to go further to barricade the walk through so that you are forced. So I think also in Lagos State, if these law enforcement agents, they find you crossing without using, you'll be penalized. There's a penalty for that. So these are things that we need to put in place. And another thing I'll talk about, picking up, and I think maybe from here we can now segue into Delta State Economic and Investment Summit, is the thing on power. You see the same zeal, enthusiasm they give to infrastructure. I think we need to channel it to, and I could understand also generally when people now criticize infrastructure. You know why I say that? Because to some certain extent, it seems like these leaders, they have no idea.
Yes.
Now, this is what I mean. So they see a previous, maybe a governor, a president that focused, a minister that focused on infrastructure. And they're like, the people hailed him, for example. The person did well. Remember the previous governor, Roadmaster.
Yes, Equim.
Yes, Roadmaster. If you go to another thing, that person that's known very well for infrastructure is the current minister of the FCT, what he did in Rivers State. And people are like, so you see all that persons that come into power, like, if this person worked on infrastructure and is being commended, I think I would do the same thing, lack of ideas. So it's now looking like the basic thing, everybody's just thinking infrastructure. They're not thinking outside the box.
Yes.
And they're living the place of power. So you see that if you see what the Abia State Governor, Alex Oti, is doing now, he's not being commended. Don't be surprised that people will now start taking a leaf from his playbook.
Yes.
And they should. No, they should. But I'm saying, on your own, also be creative. Know what your state needs.
Yes.
Know what your local government needs. Know what your constituency needs. So these are things. So power is something that should be considered, because especially when you encourage Nigerians to now go into business.
Yes. That's the only way to go. And that's why that banker had to say that during the summit.
Yes, yes.
Because basically, like you said, it's important. In fact, 23 constitutional amendment gives the right to states to generate their own power, to market their own power. So there is money in energy, in power, but it looks like there is still the colonial era. I want to liken the colonial era, where some of the mistakes of the colonial masters are still lingering. Even though you make laws to stop those things, it still lives somehow in our mindsets. For instance, power generation. It is almost assumed that counts on the federal government, when in fact in 2023, states have been given the authority to go, do something about their own power, make their own means work, market it, and make money for themselves, and also make people of their states to make money. Now, the Abia State government took a good jump on that one, trying to ensure that the state has good power. In fact, let me say the way it's called, light. Very important. Now, somebody said, a friend of mine said that if you check the creation of the world, Genesis, you go to the Bible, God said, "Let there be light." That was before he even created man. It means that if there was darkness, there would not be any ability to create anything. So energy is needed. Also, the person said, I could understand that analogy. In fact, if we want to grow in this part of the world, we would need a lot of light. The energy that everyone was talking about during that summit. We need that, importantly, to grow. That helps the micro businessman, the barber, the electrician, the tailor. And that's what we have these days. We have any CEOs, Gaga. When you hear CEO, this particular, it might be a fashion person.
It might be someone selling on this singlet and from the comfort of your room or WhatsApp, it says CEO.
It's very important that Puff now has many CEOs.
Akara, kuli.
They package them. In fact, on our radio, we have one exact Gary group, packaging Gary and selling that out. I think that's a brilliant thing to do. There are many CEOs coming, and CEOs can, for the Puff we are laughing about, you're joking about, it can be more packaged.
If they export.
Yes, if we have energy. It looks like it's something silly now. That makeup artist around the area calling herself or himself a CEO, that Baba can grow beyond that if there is energy. It's important to note that people have embraced solar, but not everyone can afford solar energy because it's expensive as of now. It's either state governments begin to find a way to subsidize solar means of power, or find a way to make sure that power is available to many people. Not to say that in Asama State capital, the power generation and people now see more electricity lately. I've observed that, but it's not 100%. And like you said, we've seen so much decline in things that if we get 40%, we see it as excellent. We can get more. If you are sure that you're going to have light 24/7, you can even plan for other things. So let's not take that one for granted. That summit is up, and I think the governor was really in one. I loved the governor, all through that particular summit yesterday. All those talks, the keynote addresses, and all the speeches rendered. He was very attentive, and he looked like somebody who's ready to begin to execute some of these things. I believe that he has heard about the energy talk. In fact, when Lumumba had to come up stage, he talked about it too, hammered on it as well. It's important for us to note that we need to work on energy. We need to have light in Delta State and all states of Nigeria to bring out the creativity of Delta State. And a big well done to the governor for putting his hands on this summit and ensuring that it happens. Last time it happened was in 2016 with his successor, Ifeanyi Arthur Okowa, Ikweme himself, who was there at the summit. He dressed in suit. He was there himself, and that was the last time it was organized. I had problems about the fact that it was organized till 10 years after. But I found out that that summit itself that brought the like of our own, according to the government, our own export, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, although she differed, saying that you can't call her export entirely because our people in Abia State, remember her surname is also Iweala. We will take anger on that by sending her away from her matrimonial home. In fact, it was a moment that was emotional for me to even digress. To women generally, knowing that this woman is all powerful, well-trained organization chairman and the rest of it, and has done different great things for herself. She's also still bowing to her home and showing that there's a family side of her, tells that there is power in a woman. A woman can be domesticated and be powerful as this woman. And also seeing her attire generally. I know that she has a trademark of this head tie that not many ladies admire, but she has turned it into her own identity. It's a very powerful thing to see. And so the comments she made also and the plans to prioritize the blue economy, to see that we begin to innovate, to see that we have good maintenance culture in this part of the world is quite important. But again, well done to the governor for having the guts to organize this 10 years after. When it was done in 2016, what we found was the Kwale Trade Zone and the rest of them. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful. In German, they say wunderbar. But we want to see more of these, more things come out from this particular summit afterwards. It should not be a place of speeches being rendered, but a place after the speeches are rendered. And after the summit continues to today, I would say workshop, matter of fact, that we begin to see actions immediately. Not a place where we'll put it down on paper that the governor has done this. Before we see the end result of it, it might take a long time. But I dare to say also that successive governments have done things that have changed the trajectory of the state. I remember the Oduaha administration, when he had to do something on Delta Beyond Oil. It looked like it was just on paper. And it just looked like, okay, another speech has been rendered. In fact, the then governor of California, and who is one of my best movie actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was around. He also gave talks on Delta Beyond Oil. The side effect of that, or the resultant effect of that, was that his successor, the former governor of the state, Ifeanyi Arthur Okowa, began to do things about building businesses through Yaga programs, entrepreneur programs, helping businesses to thrive in different ways that are not focused on oil. That was the first move. Now enter the incumbent governor of Delta State, His Excellency, my namesake, Francis Sheriff Oborevwori. Decided to do more of this kind of innovation, follow up on the summit try to ensure that he doesn't just push away all those programs of the previous administration. And now this summit coming together just tells that things are going to work for Delta State. I'm very optimistic, but at the same time, I'm charging, I'm appealing, I'm calling, I'm begging, I'm pleading to the state government to ensure that this is followed up, not just by those wonderful speeches and the beautiful surrender of the governor of the state in trying to do more for the state.
Okay.
And actions ready.
So some weeks back, the governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Oberoi, talking on power, he said that the problem is not basically with generation, but distribution.
Yes.
So it's a good thing that he has identified that, and now because of the power that has been given to subnationals, they cannot find a way around that. And we must also commend this administration and also the previous administration for the IPP, Independent Power Plants, that especially government offices in Asaba are benefiting from, and there's still a lot to do. And that's why I love what the chairman of Transcorp PLC, Tony Illuminati, talked about. He said that he's willing to he have conversations after the summit with the governor on how to improve on power, because of course we know Transcorp is into power as well. So they will look at power, and also the chairman of Mosa Energy Limited, Olukayode Ramos, they also spoke on power. So it tells us that's a good thing about the summit. And in the governor's speech, he made a statement very striking, saying through the summit we hope to connect ideas with capital. So it's a good thing for those persons that have ideas. Capital will come. And we need to understand, when it comes to business, capital is not limited to money. That's financial capital. There's also human capital. There is social capital. Social capital is, you know what I do, and you know somebody that wants my service or have my goods. You connect it because of our relationship. So connecting ideas with capital is well, and forge strategic partnerships. And we see this platform has led to the speech of the chairman of Transcorp, saying that he will have conversations with the governor for partnership and maximize our competitive advantages. And that's where the DG of the WTO, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has suggestion of the blue economy, considering the deep seaport. And that's one thing. Apart from Delta State, we have other seaports that Nigerians are asking, why are they not functional? Why only Lagos? Once this is open, I tell you, we're saying the president, one of the things that he brags about concerning his administration is the increments in allocations to different states. I tell you, if there are different deep seaports across the nation, we see IGR of states will go up. And with what we're looking at, state funding, we're looking at state police, how will it be funded, and other projects. These are ways that these things can be funded.
Generate funds from that.
Yes, so it's a to me, the summit, only day one, if it had even ended yesterday, would have said it is a success, because, but like what someone once said, a good idea is just an idea until you make it work. So let it not end with speeches.
No, we shouldn't.
Let's see actions, complementary actions that back this up. And I'll end with what the Anambra State Governor said, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, who was talking about let's patronize made in Nigeria products. It's something that even late former President Muhammadu Buhari was talking about. The change begins with you, wearing Nigerian products. But it's very disheartening that these politicians, they preach these messages, but when you see the vehicles, their convoy, you cannot find any made in Nigeria vehicle. When you see the tuxedos that they wear, the shoes, you cannot find any Nigerian product. So, like the former president said, let the change begin with you. So when you are telling Nigerians to patronize made in Nigeria, don't make it look like it's for the low class or middle class, if there's still anything like that in Nigeria.
We have low class and first class.
So let the political office holders do that. We have people that make cars. Imagine those vehicles, if they are made in Nigeria. Consider how much, by the estimation of what the Anambra State Governor was saying. He was saying that if we patronize made in Nigerian products, 10 million job creations. You can imagine that. Imagine that. And do you know what that does also? Crime reduces. Crime reduces. So when we say there's kidnapping, all those things will naturally reduce.
Violence, restiveness, we'll just beat them totally, hands down. If we can create jobs in that manner. I want to, hang on to what you said about trying to patronize our road and say really that politicians, even in this state, have found it almost admirable to, to try to outsource for experts, outside the state and sometimes outside the country. In fact, I think Professor Lumumba had to be very balanced in how he handled that particular perspective, albeit the governor is intentional trying to attract foreign investors. It was the Commissioner for Information who once upon a time said something about trying to ensure that we do not let go of local investors and leave the growth of business in Delta State solely to foreign investors. It means that you have to still call those foreign investors and you have to still embrace local investors. But I must also appeal that outsourcing, even in Delta State, for things that can be done in Delta State should be gotten from Delta State. It sends a very strong message that Deltans can understand that to get the best, you don't need to leave Delta State before that can happen. And it means every area, whether it comes to the area of decoration, interior, or DJing, or MCing, or food, whatever it is.
Event coverage.
If you always have to outsource to get it done, you send a very silent message to Deltans that to get the best, you must leave Delta State. And if you want to really generate proper, as the IGR, you must ensure that you start making things from your home. In fact, the reason that Nigeria, as it is, because people have said that Nigeria and Delta State are quite similar because we have divergent ethnicity and the rest of it. If we want to ensure that we don't mirror the problems of Nigeria and bring it back home, we must learn to reduce importation where necessary. I say that because Nigeria is so big a nation that it imports everything from toothpick to chewing sticks to toothbrush to toothpaste. We import everything. And there is a perception in Nigeria that what is brought from US is good and what is made in Nigeria is exactly low class or from mediocres. That has to change, and it starts with different states. It was a good thing that Professor Lumumba mentioned that states have to begin to feel that they can change the whole concept of their state that can affect the country and the entire continent. And it starts with little efforts like this. Patronize your own. Grow your own. Ensure that people can begin to embrace what is done in your state and then begin to push it out there. Export them out there so that it can be cherished and you can make proper money. So there are so many things that can come from that summit. And many things are already coming from the summit. There is a motivation generated. The atmosphere is charged. Deltans believe they can do this. Wonderful speeches given out there. The blue economy is quite pivotal. We have it right here in Delta State. We have the creeks. We have it all. We must begin to capitalize and ensure that people go to that water, go to the water there and get the monies there. It's so much money in that area. And sometimes it looks like people outside the country are the ones capitalizing on it. And that has got to stop. We must take advantage of the things we have, from human resources to capital, everything that we have to ensure that we can make for a better state. We'll give them a short break. When we come back, right here on Thursday's Morning Ride, we'll look at the papers. That's if you stay with us right here on Morning Ride.
For honoring